All right, what's up, y'all? Will here with Schedulefly, and this is the Restaurant Owners Uncorked podcast brought to you by us here at Schedulefly. Super simple, web-based restaurant employee scheduling software backed by legendary customer service and all at a low price point. You probably haven't heard of us, even though we've been doing this 19 years. We have a small team, bootstrapped, 5,000 customers that are very happy, and we just kind of have grown one customer at a time for 19 years now through word of mouth. But if you're on pencil and paper or Excel or Google Sheets, Schedulefly will make life easier from everybody from the owner to the scheduling manager to the employees who want to be able to communicate and have their schedule at their fingertips. If you're on another scheduling software, it may be great. Or if you're kind of looking at your tech stack and realizing how much you're paying for all this tech, we are a very affordable, simple option. So check us out, schedulefly.com, 30-day free trial. And my personal cell phone number is on schedulefly.com's website on like 3 pages. And if you call it, you're going to get me on my flip phone, and I can even get a text on here too. So text me if you'd like as well. Would love to talk to you. That's enough about Schedulefly. Let's get into Restaurant Owners Uncorked. I am super excited today, personally and professionally, to have Jay Rushin on here to talk about H&H Bagels. And I'll get into the personal part in a minute here. But Jay, take just a minute and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Been involved with H&H Bagels since 2014 and excited to be here today.
And so H&H Bagels, which has been around since 1972,
You got it.
were you involved in, what did you do prior to H&H? Were you involved in the hospitality business?
Not at all. I was in finance for 20 years right out of college, and really this is literally my second career.
That's amazing. Okay. So give us the backstory about H&H. And I mean, I know H&H
Yeah.
because I watch Seinfeld like all the way through every year starting in January. And so
That's awesome.
I love when Kramer comes back from the 12-year strike, and y'all been featured in a lot of other shows too. So it's been around a long time and has a really wonderful brand. Give us a little bit about the backstory.
Yeah, sure. I'll give you the 30-second version. It got a little complicated a few times during its history, but it was founded in 1972 by a Puerto Rican immigrant named Helmer Toro and his cousin. In 1974, they opened a second location on the Upper East Side in New York City. In the early 80s, he went bankrupt the first time, which most people probably don't realize. And so each location went to bankruptcy court independently. Helmer won the bankrupt auction for the Upper West Side location, but he lost it on the Upper East Side. So right around 1980, the brand got split into two ownership groups. They both independently did their thing. And then, the more infamous bankruptcy happened in 2011 when Helmer Tormo took it off the cliff, ended up on Rikers Island on weekends and all sorts of crazy stuff. And everything associated with his ownership was closed. And the Upper East Side location was just like the little engine that could. It stayed alive. It kept putting along, doing its thing, but pretty much under the radar. I heard through a relative that the then owners were interested in selling. Um, Happened to sit down with them, go through everything, and came to a good deal in 2013. And then I took formal ownership January 1st of 2014. So that's the short answer.
Well, what? There's a whole. I mean, we could probably get through that whole story on an episode.
Yeah, we
So
could spend an entire episode
yeah,
just on that, no doubt.
that's fascinating. Why so you were in finance for
Yeah,
20 years?
yeah, you got
Uh, what drew you in?
it. There are a lot of moving parts, just pretty much like everyone, I guess. But I was a lifelong foodie, so I was always interested in the food business. Um, when I was a 20-something-year-old walking onto this, giant trading floor of a finance company, there was maybe one or two people with gray hair on the entire floor, so it kind of registered with me that I might need a backup plan for down the road.
Hmm.
So it was always in my kind of back of my mind planning that I would end up being a small business owner one day. And sure enough, after 15 years, I started to get a little of the burnout that finance people sometimes do, and started looking around the country for an interesting business to buy. And I was looking for a business not only just in food, but something that could sell itself. So, um, I knew myself well enough to know that if it involved heavy marketing and sales, that it, wouldn't be a good fit for my skill set. So, just so happened that this kind of dropped in my lap. It was an amazing brand that was underinvested. Um, it really had this legacy history that was, being underappreciated by the owners at the time. And I thought there was really, amazing growth potential in the brand, almost like a comeback story, if you will. Um, and so that was what started it. And you don't know what you don't know, and having never been in the food business, you know, probably overly optimistic about some things and maybe not so much other things, but it's worked out pretty well over time. But lots of stories and ups and downs over the last 12 years for sure.
Well, you bring up a great point because I've been doing this podcast for 16 years this March.
Yeah,
And one of the things I've learned is there's a tends to be a big variance between what you think it's like to be in hospitality and what it is like.
yeah,
Um, what are some of the things that, and you can talk about some of the pros as well as the cons that you had not anticipated coming into this?
sure. I mean, I had a running joke for a long time, um, because when I took over in 2014, I knew nothing about infrastructure. I knew nothing about a restaurant kitchen, that equipment, what it takes to run that equipment and maintain that equipment, like literally zero. I mean, I was a home cook and that was about that was the extent of it. Um, but within the first 2 years of owning the brand, I had either replaced or rebuilt every single piece of equipment in the entire building. So I had a running joke for probably the first 10 years because I still had the original printer that I had acquired. and and I would tell people that is the only remaining piece of equipment that I haven't had to replace yet in my acquisition from a decade ago. And then it broke and
Enter.
now I can't tell that story anymore.
Yeah. Well, boy, is that a common theme.
Yeah.
You could talk for half an hour about equipment alone and just it is maintenance, things break, things go out in the middle of the night. So when you so you bought this and you took over,
Mhm.
were you there every day for a while? Like what tell me like talk through the first, few months or first year or whatever and what it was
Yeah,
like.
sure. At the time, we only had um, one restaurant location on the Upper East Side that also housed our wholesale business. So every bagel that was made with the H&H name was made in that one facility. My office was above the bagel shop on the second floor. Um, and so, we were making millions of bagels a year out of this one, you know, call it 4,000 square foot facility when you count the basement. But yeah, I was there 7 days a week. This was pre 3PD, Uber Eats, and DoorDash. So
Yeah.
I was literally working Saturdays and Sundays, answering the phone, taking deliveries, and sending those orders down, down to the front line. I mean, there were a couple of January 1st where I was taking deliveries for phone orders because that's one of the busiest days of the year for us. Everyone wakes up January 1st after New Year's Eve and they wanted a bagel. So,
Yeah.
um, and then the other funny story is we didn't have egg sandwiches in 2014. So all we did were, cream cheese spreads, salads, and smoked salmon sandwiches. When we installed our first griddle at that location, we almost burnt the whole building down. So
Oh,
like smoke started coming out of the basement because we overloaded the electric panel, and it was like it was crazy. So That's another like side equipment story where I had you hire these people to supposedly be experts, and you know nothing about electrical work or plumbing work or anything, and you're really relying on these people to come through for you, and then they don't quite do the job you would hope they were going to do, or um, and then you have things like that happen. So
Well, you nailed a really important point, which is don't expect, whether it's buying a business that you're going to grow or buying even a franchise, don't expect that you can be sort of like the money and that somebody else is going to come in and run this thing for you and make it all work. Not early on. You really have to, wouldn't you agree? I mean, you kind of have to understand every aspect of the business yourself.
yeah, I mean, it's a little bit easier in the franchising world because a lot of that stuff is set up for you. I mean, uh,
Yeah, good point.
I had nothing. I had no system. Like there was, I mean, there were literally no. What I acquired was a company being operated like it was 1980s. So it was a
Yeah.
very unique situation to say the least. Um, H&H franchisees at least have a tech stack and a whole process and system set up for them. But to your point, you can't just mail it in. I mean, this is the food business, and it is a nickels and dimes business, not
Yeah.
tens and twenties and fifties business. So you got to pay real attention to your business. You got to watch things carefully, and you do need to be reasonably hands on.
I worked in this it was a concept down in Ponte Vedra Beach right after college, before I
Hmm.
started my first real job, and or first, you know, formal job, I guess.
Yeah.
I was working. I was like salsa guy,
Yeah.
and it was sort of like a Chipotle before Chipotle. It's called Sierra Grill. It's still there, but they didn't. I don't think they really grew it. But
Yeah.
I one of the things I had to do was grade cheese, and here I am, like no concept of how much the like literally the guy told me one day, I'm grading the cheese and I'm putting it in the container, and there's like all these cheese shreds all over the counter.
Yeah.
When I'm done, he goes, my manager Paul, he goes, Will, what is this? I was like, I don't know, it's like whatever. And he picks up some shreds of cheese. I mean, like six little shreds, and he goes, money, money, money. He holds it in his fingers and he goes, money, money, money. I'm like, what? He goes, Will, this is a business of pennies, dude. Like, this is pennies. Like, this adds up. And I was like, this guy must be crazy. No clue. And so it's funny you said that, nickels and dimes. I mean, we don't make pennies anymore, so I guess it has to be nickels and dimes.
Yeah.
But
I used to say pennies and nickels, but I've upgraded that to nickels and dimes with inflation.
exactly, exactly. But it did underscore to me how important that is, and really getting down to that level of detail really can be, because that, you know, multiple shifts every day, 365 days, that adds up. And a little bit of extra labor, 365, it all adds up, and the margins are tight.
Yep.
So, so you buy this thing. So you're 2014. How long was it before you started going, okay, I think I got a handle on this and I'd like to try to grow it?
Um, we grew up pretty quickly because 2014 I took over. Probably the first 18 months really was just fixing what was there. That complete infrastructure rebuild. Like I said, there was no systems in place, so I had to install systems. But once that was done, we and again, this is probably like you make all these rookie mistakes because you don't know what you don't know. So in late 2016, we opened a second location on the Upper West Side, which was literally just across Central Park from our flagship location. And that really was an eye-opening experience where you question everything you've learned to date about your category and start to realize that maybe everything you've been told or heard or tradition or whatnot might not necessarily make sense in the world we live in. So
What do you mean by that? What did you learn? What were some of the things you learned?
yeah. Well, so in the old days, to be a New York City bagel brand, you had to make and bake bagels at every single location, no matter where they were and how close they were to you. So, like, literally, it's a mile as a crow flies across Central Park. And, I'm building out this large space and putting in mixers and formers and having a full time baker and a full time bagel maker a mile away, where I
Mm,
have 5,000 square feet of people doing the same thing. Because that's what you do. You have to, like, you have to do that. Well, 6 months later, you're looking at your P&L going, I mean, this is kind of a waste of time. Like,
mm,
how could I ever scale in the bagel category if I have to spend this much money on equipment and this much money on labor to have someone make bagels and bake bagels and, stand in front of an oven all day? So that's like input number one. Okay, maybe everything I've heard doesn't make sense. Maybe we need to rethink what what the world looks like today and going forward, and not worry so much about what the world looked like 30 years ago. 'Cause
mm.
that doesn't always apply. At the same time, or right around the same time, I had this guy reach out to me from Taiwan on like a Facebook message, and randomly. And you question it immediately, like, is this like some scam?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
this person real? Am I being scammed? But like, we had some back and forth over this Facebook message, and he like was making sense, and writing full sentences and asking reasonable questions. So he wanted to see if we would be willing to par bake and freeze bagels and send them to Taiwan by the container load. And this was literally like, 6 months after we opened this location on the west side, where I'm already questioning our model. Like, there's real no way to grow this thing if we're going to do it this way. And I'm like, we've never done that before. Give me a few weeks and let me do some R&D. So then I had my bakers start playing around with this, par bake them. I would take them home, bake them off in my home oven, and be like, wow, this is a great product. Like, this is just like I'm pulling it out of the oven, at our, original location. So, both those things were kind of happening in parallel. And it just was like an aha moment. Like, if we can figure out how to par bake bagels at scale and then supply them, to our locations, all of a sudden you're removing multiple $100,000 of equipment out of each location. You're able to take a smaller size space, which obviously reduces rent, reduces utilities, reduces,
Mm.
labor. Um, and you're still serving an authentic New York City bagel. So here we are, we're shipping 20 pallets by container load to Taiwan. I've got this new location on the Upper West Side, which I realize, you know, the model doesn't make a ton of sense for long term. Um, and so that's really what the start and the genesis of was, everything to do about the H&H Bagel brand, how to expand it, how to, expand outside of New York City. And really those were the seeds that started the whole idea about the franchise nationally. And here we are. So,
Wes, I mean, I'm curious about the guy from Taiwan. Like,
yeah.
how did he know about you? What was he wanting to, like? Where did that story lead to?
So he happened to be from New Jersey, and he moved back to Taiwan with family, and he opened five what he called New York bagel cafes in Taipei, Taiwan. Ended up he closed them during the pandemic, and kind of retired and went
Okay.
sunset. Um, but you would be, or I certainly was, eh, surprised at the brand awareness that H&H has globally. Um, back in 2016, we also expanded our wholesale business to supply nationally, and obviously with Taiwan, it became global. But we would go to these food shows in these little 10 by 10 booths because, we were still a small company just starting out in the wholesale business. And the number of people that would walk by the booth and go, H&H Bagels, Kramer, where's Kramer? Just
Ha!
to your point at the beginning, it's like unbelievable how many people would recognize the brand, um, no matter what part of the country we're in. It's just between so many different people from around the world living at one point or another in New York City
Yeah.
or
Right.
being exposed to, some of the most famous television shows, you know, in history. Or, being a tourist in New York, it's almost ubiquitous that if you come to New York for a visit, you have to have bagel and pizza. So, we were just on that tourist cycle of H&H Bagels. They were on Seinfeld. They were on Sex and the City. We got to go check it out. And so it didn't matter whether we were in a New Orleans food show or Phoenix food show. Inevitably, hundreds of people would be so excited that we were there and asking for merch and hats and T-shirts. And I can't believe it. Wait till my husband or my wife or my cousin or my brother sees it. Um, and that's really another, kind of seed in the, we need to expand this nationally. We need to figure out a way to bring this to the people because they love the brand. The
Mm,
product is amazing. And, if you look out at the competition in the bagel category, there's not much there.
yeah. Yeah. What, I want to get into expansion and franchising, but I want to take us on a side tangent
Sure.
here for just a minute because I'm fascinated with bagels, right? I didn't grow up with bagels here in Charlotte. They're ubiquitous now, but
Yeah.
I have had what I would call phenomenal bagels.
Mhm.
Uh, eh, from my uneducated perspective, I've had some where I'm like, like I don't know what's the big deal. And for most of my life, it was like, what's the big deal? But now you know, you're getting some brands that are coming in to places like Charlotte and have what they would say authentic New York bagels, and they are very good. What makes a great bagel? Like what is it about New York, the water? Like what tell me about what makes a great bagel.
It's a lot of things. I would say the water's part of it for sure. The ingredients are a big part of it. And the process is a big part of it. It's really all three things. So for our bagels, we use the highest quality flour on the market, and so each of our bagels has 13, 14 grams of protein,
Mm,
and that's really a reflection of the quality of the flour. But if you happen to like go to your grocery store and pick up a random, bag of bagels in the grocery store, you know, chances are those bagels will have like 7 or 8 grams of protein because they're using a lower quality flour. Obviously, that's a cheaper flour. It's all relative. So that's a big part. The other thing um, is there are a lot of steps to making a traditional New York bagel, um, and a lot of those steps you can skip to make the process faster, to reduce labor, to reduce cost. On and on and on. So, like the mass produced bagels on the grocery store shelf, back to that example, they're putting it's all automated. They have a giant production line and they're just feeding flour in one end. And an hour later, a bagel is coming out the other end and putting it in a bag, all
mm.
automated. And it's not necessarily the automation that's causing the lack of quality of the bagel. It's A, that quality of flour I just spoke of, but B, they're not proofing those bagels for as long as the traditional process. They're not retarding those bagels. So we retard our bagels for 8 to 12 hours.
What does that mean?
So they're sitting in a very cold refrigerator just above freezing for the yeast and that dough to all kind of work its magic and that overnight retardation is what brings more flavor to the dough.
Okay.
But in a fully automated system, that process is effectively skipped, and you're just going from flour to bagel. And that's why if you taste like a off the shelf grocery store bagel, it might just taste like a hamburger bun that has a hole in it.
Mhm. Yes. Okay.
And then I forgot one important point. You're also those aren't also being kettle boiled. So we have giant, I think they're 100-gallon boiling vats of water.
Okay.
And so they're made, they're proof, they're retarded overnight, they're pulled out, then they go in that vat of boiling water. They come out, they get seeded, they get trayed, and then they get oven baked.
Okay.
Now, I would argue that no one in existence today at our scale still fully kettle boils in giant vats of boiling water that we do, because it's difficult and it's time consuming and it's labor intensive. I mean, we literally have a row of these giant vats of boiling water in our bakery. Um, but
How long do you
we
boil them?
tried during our R&D of like expanding our bakery, we tried to make a bagel without fully kettle boiling, and the degradation of quality was too great for us to keep our name on it, so to speak.
How long do you boil them?
They're boiled for about 30 to 45 seconds.
Okay. So it's like a flash
It's quick.
boil. Like,
Yeah, it's quick.
yeah. But it makes that, but you could tell the difference.
Well, that's what helps like create that almost like that skin texture on the outside that gives it that kind of that shine.
Yeah. Okay.
And so that's really the difference between a bagel, a real bagel, and just a piece of baked bread is
I got
that like almost like skin, if you will.
you. Okay. So this is okay. So to do that, I mean, I see why the traditional wisdom was you've got to do it all there on site. I mean, how do you do
Yeah,
that?
how do you get around that? Right, for sure.
Right. But you were able to do that. You figured out how to do that on a wholesale basis, and then you figured out how to do that to ship them over to Taiwan. What's the what is the product that goes to Taiwan and what happens, or that goes wholesale and what happens from there?
So from there, they receive it and then they finish the bake. So
They
it's
just finish the bake. Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
But
Okay.
then you have like authentic, fresh, hot New York City bagels all day long. So that's how we created our entire franchise system. So our
Okay.
franchisees, no matter where they are in the country, they're baking off those bagels every 45 minutes to an hour, and then
Got it.
you just bring in those trays of hot bagels out all day long.
You couldn't scale having these big boilers and all this equipment at franchise locations all over the
It's
country.
impossible.
Couldn't work.
It's impossible. Well, the labor involved is you only could have expanded to major urban centers that would have the volume that could
Yeah. Yeah.
support the labor that's required to do that. It's like that's
Well,
like
you could
push pull of it.
give me my $40 bagel, please.
Yeah, there you
Right.
go.
Okay. All right. So then, um, when when did you decide that it was time to franchise? And talk a little bit about that process. And um,
Yeah, sure. We probably started in 2018.
okay.
But we didn't fully launch for a full 2 years. Um, it takes a long time for all that legal paperwork to get done.
Mm,
But B, at the same time, we were working on our bakery facility because we couldn't scale in the facility we had. We were already out of room. And it was not gonna. So it was like a little bit of a chicken and egg. Do you franchise first and use that capital from franchising to expand your infrastructure? Um, or do you expand your infrastructure and franchise with that infrastructure? We obviously chose the latter. Wasn't easy for sure. So we built out a 20,000 square foot bakery facility over in Queens, and it supplies all of our bagels globally, both to our New York City stores and to all of our franchises.
you say it wasn't easy because you were rolling the dice on all that upfront investment.
Yeah, sure. We invested millions up front into that bakery. And we're trying to build a franchise business while we try to fill that capacity.
Yeah.
So, it's a tricky equation there.
That is,
But it just wasn't the right thing to do. The opposite, because we were already at capacity,
yeah.
and what are we gonna do then? So, just another challenge of making bread for a living.
A calculated risk. Okay, so then, and how many company owned or franchise owned, and how many franchisee locations do you have?
So we have 5 company-owned locations in New York City, 2 licensed locations in New York City airports, and we just opened our 8th franchise location down in Chapel Hill.
Oh
Not
yeah,
too,
nice.
not too far away from you, but
Yeah.
we're getting closer to you.
No, not far at all. I mean, my stepmom lives in Cary, and I spend time up around Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. Love it up there.
Yeah, it's great.
Where in Chapel Hill are you? Are you near like on Franklin Street or?
It's at University Place,
Okay.
if you know that.
Yeah. I mean, I think I know where
I'm
that. Yeah.
forgetting it's like a main road, but I'm forgetting, it kind of connects Chapel Hill and Durham, if you know it well. I'm forgetting the name of the road right now.
Yeah. What was it 15501 or something? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's like 501, something.
Well,
Great
okay.
location. Fantastic location.
Yeah. It opened recently.
I think 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Yeah.
Oh, literally. Very okay. Very.
Yeah. Brand new.
Oh, I know a lot of folks in Chapel. I'll send them your way. All right. So where was your first franchise location, Jeff? Jeff,
First was Boca Raton down in Florida.
why there?
Man, we're basically we're almost sold out of Florida. There was so much demand for franchising in Florida. They just it's nonstop. So we've already sold Tampa, Orlando, Jacksonville, Miami, and South Florida ex Miami. Uh, they just so happened to be the first franchisee group that signed on.
What?
And then Boca just happened to be the best piece of real estate that we could find within their territory. We just opened their second location in West Palm Beach, and their third location is under construction in Palm Beach Gardens. And then we're about to open our separate franchise group's first location in Miami. We opened first location in Tampa late last year, and we opened our first location in Jacksonville last fall. Orlando's coming in like 90 days or so.
Okay.
So yeah, we're growing rapidly in Florida, the state of Florida, no doubt about that.
I mean, it seems like a natural thing. There's a lot of people from New York that
Yeah,
move there or spend half their year there or whatever. So, you've
100%,
got immediate brand recognition.
for sure.
Uh, what do you look for in a franchisee?
Um, it's interesting in our case is, a 54-year-old emerging brand. So,
Yeah.
and a lot of the first franchise groups, it was all about the brand. Like, our first handful of franchisees were all like grew up in New York, absolutely loved the brand and couldn't believe they had an opportunity to be, a franchisee of the brand. Now that we've gotten further along, we still get an interesting assortment of franchisees, but we have ex-owner of Popeyes as a franchisee group, ex-owners of Krispy Kreme as a franchise group. So now we're getting a little bit more of those experienced franchisees. At the beginning, it was more first timers. Um, what do we look for in franchisees? Uh, you know, good, good people, smart people, people that understand that, they're going to need to be involved day to day and keep a close eye. I mean, I have the same conversation with all of our potential franchisees. If you think you can buy a franchise and outsource everything and just sit back and do nothing, you're making a major mistake, and we don't we don't want you involved. Um, you you've got to watch everything. You've got to be highly involved. Doesn't mean you need to necessarily be working the line every day and
Yeah.
sandwiches all day or something. That just is more to your personal desires. But you certainly have to touch your operation. It's your business. It's your P&L. Um, we're gonna fight every day for you. We'll be there to help support you every day. We will, be there to do whatever we can to help you succeed. But at the end of the day, you know, it is your business and it is, your operation, and you gotta be on top of it. So, um, fortunately, we've got an amazing set of franchisees that, you know, I guess, listened to me early on and didn't walk away and go buy a different brand that told them something different. But we've got a good group.
Do you have any, you mentioned ex Popeyes and ex Krispy Kreme. Do you have any franchisees that are dialed in with multiple brands and understand, um, you know, the franchise playbook and following that playbook, but are looking to diversify their investments and to different day parts and so forth?
Yeah, that group does have several brands, the ex Popeyes people. I think I think we're one of two or three other brands that is that diversification you're speaking of. Because we're breakfast lunch. I know they in particular have a lunch dinner concept. They also have like, a dessert concept. So they're trying to play that diversification game. Another one of our franchises has done the same, where she's got two brands. So we're breakfast lunch, and then she's got a lunch dinner. So yeah, certainly we do see that.
How do you attract franchisees? Is it just all inbound or?
Pretty much. We did some franchising shows early on when we first started, just to get the word out and our name out. But at this point, it's mostly all inbound. And again, this goes back to being lucky enough to have a 50-year-old brand with huge brand recognition. We haven't had to spend a ton of time building brand awareness because it was already there. So, that's
Yeah.
that's a better lucky than good thing.
Well, like, give me an idea of the numbers of inbounds you have and what's your initial filter and how do you get down to what's that process look like?
Sure. I mean, we decided early on not to do any single units. So all we do are multi units. They're either so far today, we've only done 3, 5, and 10 unit development agreement deals. And really, that's dependent on the size of the market and the size of the geographic map that the franchisee is interested in. And that we coalesce around what makes sense. Um, I would say number of inbounds is, we're probably getting 50 to 100 inbound interest leads a week.
A
Uh,
week?
yeah, I mean, the interest level is high. I would
Yeah.
say a fair amount of those don't realize we only do multi units and they don't qualify from a financial standpoint. So once we explain that to them, that is what it is. A lot of these people are just looking for single units. Um, I personally have a philosophical issue with single units just because in this day and age, it's very difficult to be successful with one unit.
Yeah. Okay.
The economics are difficult.
Yeah.
Really to build an asset, which is what should be the goal of anyone franchising. To build an asset, you need to build multiple units to make that asset of any value to someone that really would be interested in acquiring your assets. So, one unit is worth very little to an outsider in a transaction. But when you get to 3 or 5 or 10, or certainly more than 10, you're really starting to get to a point where you get a multiple on that revenue EBITDA asset because you then have a territory, you have multiple units with, different revenue streams, and that becomes a real tradable, valuable asset.
Sure.
So that goes back to my 20 years in finance. So connected us there.
So how do you just, so 3, 5, 10, 3 unit would be maybe not a major metropolitan area, but
Yeah, Knoxville, Tennessee, our
yeah.
franchisee has 3 units. We don't necessarily like Knoxville could eventually grow into more units than three, and we're fine with that. But we felt like that metro area was only going to support a 3 unit deal up front.
Okay.
Yeah.
So getting into this from a finance background and getting a lot of trial by fire, and trial and error,
Mm-hmm.
you also have peers, mentors, people you follow or others that you've learned from in this space?
Not in the bagel space. Bagel space is
Well,
hyper
hospitality maybe. Yeah.
hyper competitive.
No. I mean like just
Oh,
like
hospitality.
scaled hospitality brands or things like
Yeah, sure. I mean, there are certainly a ton of brands that I watch closely because I admire and respect what they've done and what they've built. Um,
who are some of those
and
brands?
I think we all like watch each other across across the way to like pick off good ideas that other people have. I mean, probably some of my favorites are like Shake Shack and Danny Meyer, of course, is an incredible restaurateur and built some amazing brands. But I I personally love the brand and the product, and I think they're an incredibly smart group, and I always kind of watching what they do and crib little tiny ideas from time to time when I'm in their stores and like, that's a really good idea. Let me talk to my team about that. Um, Kava has done amazing things over, the last 5 to 10 years. Levain Bakery, I think has done really smart
Levain, I know them.
in the cookie category. It's been a tough category of late, but I respect what they've done with the brand. I think they've done really smart things. Um, Yeah, I mean all the major, newer fast casual guys I watch just because they've got smart people and they do smart things, and we're always kind of watching each other.
Have you read Setting the Table?
100%, yeah. Read that. I read that even before I got into business.
Yeah, it's applicable across really any domain. So we'll talk about that piece of it because Danny Meyer is fascinating to me how he kind of came up with really high end hospitality and then figured out how to, he figured the confluence of the hospitality people aspect and the scalable product aspect and somehow married those in a unique way with Shake Shack.
Yeah, if you remember that book, he said he would never build a chain.
Yeah. 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 I mean, that's like antithetical to his whole philosophy, but
100%. He just kind of lucked into Shake Shack, which, that's like the fortuitous nature of life, right? Like where I'm opening this Upper West Side location. This guy from Taiwan randomly reaches out to me and it kind of comes the exact perfect moment to coalesce around a good idea. He's running, I think that was what, 11 Madison or whatever that restaurant was called he used to own. And
11 Madison.
yeah, the Madison Square Park group reaches out to him to do something with an underutilized park, and he comes up with the Shake Shack idea, and there you go, off you go.
Yeah. Well,
Amazing.
but talk about, I mean, you read that book before you even started what you're doing. Talk about that aspect, the human aspect, the people aspect, the hospitality aspect of what y'all do and how you build that into the model.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, the people are the hardest part of the business, right? So, we have worked, and that was another whole step function reason behind fixing the model, is it was so labor intensive and really jobs that weren't that attractive. I mean, standing in front of a blazing hot oven all day is not really fun.
Yeah.
Um, um, you know, Standing in front of a giant cauldron of boiling water is not that fun. So, part of that process over time was, how do we make this job, less intense for people so that they can bring more joy to the job and then translate that to the customer experience because it's not so difficult that they're miserable all day. Um, and that was part of that process. So, um, by removing all that complexity out of the model, really simplifying that model, then it becomes a more customer service oriented brand and less a, human intensive labor brand. And then that brings more joy to the whole equation.
Mhm.
And that took a long, long time to figure out and to tweak. And, like you're thinking about every process, like how to griddle a fresh cracked egg fast, efficiently, and with the highest quality to give the best quality product to the customer while making it the easiest for those team members to produce and be productive and efficient so that, everyone in that chain is happy. Because if you make mistakes, more mistakes lead to more customer complaints. No one wants to hear customer complaints all day or have a customer yelling at them because they got the order wrong. So
Yeah.
like it's all like interrelated, right? It's like the happier the customers are, the happier the team members are, and it's all like building blocks. And so then you're like, if I put this piece of equipment a foot closer to this piece of equipment, then that makes it faster and easier for the team members. And like if it's
Mhm.
3 feet apart versus 3.5 feet apart, is that too crowded or people bumping into each other? Because if team members are bumping into each other, then that makes it less of a, conducive work environment. So all those things you're like adjusting these building blocks and you're adjusting them after each opening, right? Like I walked the space. This was a little tight. This didn't make sense. This being next to this is a heat source. This is a refrigerator. This is affecting that refrigerator and it's making the temperatures go up. So I mean, it's a constant puzzle, and that's
Yes.
hospitality. It's like hospitality is a constant puzzle.
Constant.
How do you unravel that puzzle to make it better for better for the customers, better for the employees, and it's all like building blocks and solving problems.
Building blocks and solving problems. And if you are a foodie, and you're thinking about getting into the restaurant business, these are the things that this is the real stuff. Like how do I make this, you know, 3 feet of walking distance versus 8 feet? Like it all of this adds up and compounds. Um,
100%.
and so it's yeah. Well, so how do you, when your franchisees sign on, and let's
Mhm.
take Chapel Hill, for instance, is there a generally good type of location for y'all, like a grocery store, shopping center, or not in a grocery store, shopping center because they sell? Like, what are you typically looking for? I know it varies, but
Yeah, sure. Well, the thing about our brand is we're breakfast lunch. So from a human perspective, human behavior, breakfast and lunch demands better access, better convenience.
yeah,
People don't mind being inconvenienced for dinner because dinner is usually an hour, 2 hours. It's more of an event. It's more, almost entertainment and food. Like it's an
yeah,
event.
right,
So
right,
you don't mind having trouble finding parking for a nice dinner or getting valet parking for a nice dinner or driving a little further for a nice dinner. For breakfast, lunch, you're in a hurry. You're, about heading to school, you're heading to work. You just need something, you know, you want something good. You want a brand that you want to spend money with a brand you love and a product you love, but you also aren't going to drive 20 minutes out of the way and parallel park in a weird street to grab a breakfast sandwich.
yeah,
So we're looking for locations that, have convenience access, whether that's like entrance, exit. has decent parking so that people can get in and out fast. We have no fundamental problem with grocery store centers, but we don't want to necessarily be that inline space a mile back with 3,000 parking spaces that you can hardly see from the road. And, that's where like convenience comes in. We rather be closer to the road so that it's easier in and out. So people can jump in, grab a bacon, egg, and cheese and a cup of coffee and either dine in real quick for 5 minutes or take it to go and, eat it when they get to the office or to school.
Do you have drive-throughs?
We do not. No.
Okay.
Yeah. We have an app. We do, you can order ahead, but drive-throughs are a complexity.
Smart, man. You're
It's a whole another level of complexity that the bagel category is I would argue not ready for.
well, it's a wise decision. Like, keep things simple that you can replicate. That is a whole other talk about solving puzzles and problems with a drive-through. So,
Yeah, and we just you know we're constantly iterating, like it never
mm,
ends. We've built that in our brand culture around here. Um, but we just reduced our sandwich count by about 50% because we looked at the data and you know ne- 11 of our sandwiches were over 90% of our sandwich sales. So it was like, why are we making these other sandwiches? like, like no one's buying them. So why to make them? Let's simplify the operation. It'll speed up service. Again, it goes back. It'll make jobs easier for our team members. It'll reduce mistakes. It'll increase everyone's happiness. So let's do it.
talk about, brands that have scaled simplicity. I mean, look at In-N-Out Burger, like
Yeah, 100%.
Chick-fil-A. Like, I think that, like, as a consumer, if you're willing to make hard choices for me, that helps me. Like, and I'm conscious of it because I'm like all dialed into this stuff, and I really like, understanding like behavioral psychology. But
Yeah,
I do think that decision fatigue is a real thing, and
could not agree with you more.
yeah, the more that you do for, like, you make the hard decisions. Like, like, if you do that for me and I don't have to think much, man, I like that. When I go in and I see this big, it's like, I don't know. And
Yeah,
it's
100%.
that, you burn all this glucose thinking all day and you're exhausted. So, like, when I go, oh, this is so easy. I love this. Like, making things easy for a consumer is more meaningful and important now than ever because we are so inundated with choices and data and information and screens and, all that, like, all the freaking time. So, what a good decision. I want to ask about the bagel category. We talked about what makes a great bagel,
Sure.
but it's been an interesting thing because, you had companies like Einstein's and all the, for a while that were coming in, and like we have those here. So you had that, and then
Mhm.
not a whole lot. And I feel like in the last few years, there's like bagel concepts, like bagels are having a moment. And how do you think about that relative to other products that have a moment, right? Like cupcakes had a moment, and, marble or slab ice cream had a, like, but how do you, I mean, I can guess how you probably think through that. And a lot of it's like, but I'm just curious if you not worry about that, Jay, but if you just are aware that, like, we don't want to grow this thing too fast, say that, like, maybe there's another product that has a moment and we want to make sure that we're consistently profitable in the operations we have, no matter what is happening in the broader category.
For sure. Um, a few different thoughts there. One, yeah, bagels are having a moment, but at the same time, bagels have always been popular. Like
Mm.
if you look back over the last 30 years of bagel consumption, the chart is like that. Like
Right.
long, slow growing, graph.
Yeah. It's not instantly nonlinear. It's just
It's not just like
compounding.
this and then
Yeah. I
like
got
that,
you.
you know?
Right.
And I think a difference between like bagels and say cupcakes or yogurt or cookies, and what I've always said to people is really you should focus on meal-based concepts. Everyone or almost everyone is going to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, but they're not always going to eat a cupcake or a cookie or a yogurt or a smoothie.
Mm,
So those are the ones that are like, trendy and have those moments and then they wane and brands flood the market and then they pull back because they can't sustain
yeah.
all those locations. But meal-based concepts, they tend to, you know, stay over time, but then the concepts themselves come and go depending on the quality of the concept. Sometimes they're a little too esoteric, sometimes they just don't hit, you know. But everyone loves bagels. Like there is no demographic for a bagel eater. Like might have
Right.
been 50 or 60 or 70 years ago when it was a more of a Jewish focused food group, but it's almost kind of like pizza. It's just Americanized now. It's just a great ubiquitous American product that people love.
Yeah.
So
Pizza's not going away. Bagels aren't going away.
bagels aren't going away. Has it become more competitive recently? For sure. But I think there are others out there that saw what we saw, and that's the fact that there was one major brand in existence nationally, and then hundreds of thousands of moms and pops. And we all saw that, there was an opportunity there. And like, every other category, whether it's pizza or burgers or chicken or, you name it, they've got multiple major competitors all competing in that category. There's no reason why there can't be multiple competitors in the bagel category. It's a multi-billion-dollar category, frankly.
The more that arise, um, the more awareness the consumer has that, you know what? Now I know what a good bagel tastes like.
100%.
And that's a good thing if you want to bank on, bet on yourself and bet on execution, then good. Let somebody else put money into just elevating the idea that you can get a really good bagel if you live in Tucson, Arizona or whatever. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that's and then, there's plenty of customers to share around. We had I mean, this is on a higher end level, but I do think the philosophy is really important. There's a great operator of independent restaurants down in Greenville, South Carolina, Carl Sobosinski, and he's kind of a legend down there. And he has a bunch of different concepts and steakhouses and oyster like higher end places. But he
Yeah.
outfitted his sort of flagship place called Sobeys a couple years ago, and
Mhm.
they just across the street, this new development came in, and there were two high end restaurants right there where there had really been nothing before. And I said, "Does that concern you?" And he goes, "No, I love it because that means it's going to bring more people down to this part of the street. And some nights they want Italian, so they go there. And some nights they want sushi, so they go there. And then some nights they want steak, so they come." But he was like, "That's good. I welcome competition and healthy competition to just bring more awareness that because I'm going to bet on when people come in our restaurant, no matter what, when they wind up here, we're gonna take such good care of them, and they're gonna have such a great experience that, when they're in the mood for what we're doing, this is where they're just gonna always come, and they're gonna become our
Yeah.
regulars." So I thought that was a really healthy way to, have
100%.
that.
I couldn't agree more. I always tell my franchisees, don't ever look for real estate that's, in a food desert. Like you want to be around other food brands. I want to be next to Shake Shack and Kava and Sweet Green and
Yes.
a good coffee place or Whole
Yes.
Foods. You want to be where consumers are already used to going to get food products. And you just want to insert yourself in there. And to your point is like, Are they gonna eat a bagel every day for breakfast? No, but they're not gonna eat a Shake Shack every day for lunch either. So, like, you just wanna be in the mix, get a couple visits a week from everybody, and let them do the other brands a couple times a week, and do great service, great product, and everything else will take care of itself.
Well, if Shake Shack and Cava and Whole Foods have decided that's a good area, then, it's already answering the question for you about whether or not
Exactly.
there's gonna be the right amount of consumer traffic and everything else. Yeah, I mean, Burger King just followed McDonald's around the country. Like, that's how they, you could go find a Burger King, it's probably across from McDonald's. So,
100%.
and then it just gets into the execution, and that, you're sup it's the great thing for the franchisee is it's like you got a great product, you have a playbook, you have a tech stack, you have systems in place. I mean, the only thing I hear about, from franchisors about why some franchisees don't work out, there's a variety of reasons, but the overwhelming majority of the time when I ask that question, it's like, well, because the franchisee didn't follow the playbook. Like,
Mhm.
they wanted to do things differently, and it's like, man, like, you're investing into this, use it. Like,
Yeah.
you're making an investment of money to save yourself the time and money to figure all this stuff out on your own. So just use this playbook
Yeah.
and, you know, execute every day. And that's what this business is, right? It's just,
100%. And what I've told our best franchise groups, the ones that I think are gonna long term do the best, are the ones that tap myself and my team's knowledge to climb that learning curve the faster, but they take ownership of that knowledge and they apply that knowledge. So that's what we're here for. We're here to get you up that learning curve and to get you to where we are as fast as possible, and that access is available. But you have to take it to a degree. I mean, we're going to have our formal calls every week, every month, and we're here in an open forum to like answer any questions and tell you like this is what I'm seeing from your locations. This is what I would suggest you do. But if you tap that knowledge base from day one, you're just going to climb that curve faster and be better for it. And that's the beauty of franchise.
yeah,
So we have some groups that have done that perfectly. That I'm like, you literally played the franchise game perfectly. Keep up the good work. And then I have others that are incredibly smart people, but they've kind of just kept to themselves and done their own thing, and it just takes them longer. And
mm,
we're still there on those calls and ops calls and all that, but they haven't really taken advantage of how the system is set up for them, and to take advantage of what franchising really is all about. It's like you're reducing your risk by buying into an established brand with an established system and an established product, but you still have to operate it every single day,
yes.
maximize that operation and customer service. Like, we're not doing that for you. You're doing it with your own team. So take all the knowledge that we can give you and all our advice and all of our experience, and tap into that access as much as you need to climb that curve to be better, and then build your team and stay on top of that team. And that's how you're going to win long term. And it doesn't matter whether it's H&H Bagels or burgers or pizza or a gym. Like, that's what the whole franchising system is for.
Yeah,
Otherwise, just go call it Dave's Bagels and open it up down the street and
that's right.
go after it.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Last thing I want to ask you about, because I think this would be a relevant thing with something like bagels, is do you still, because you mentioned early on, like early days, you're there, you're answering the phone, you're doing everything, doing deliveries. Obviously, you've got all of the third party delivery apps now, but do you all answer your phones, or do you have an AI system? We're seeing more of these AI phone answering systems.
We're messing around with AI. We actually don't. We really just have set up our phone systems we don't need phones. We don't even get calls anymore, to be honest.
Okay.
With 3PD and like third party catering, it's like, and then email. It's just a different world. But
Yeah.
we have been experimenting. We've had a couple franchisees that have started experimenting with the AI phones, and we're kind of dabbling in that
Mm,
because we
okay.
do every once in a while get a customer complaint that someone didn't answer the phone somewhere, but it's a challenge in the entire hospitality restaurant business, right? You've seen a lot of full service restaurants just not even install a phone.
Yeah.
Because it's just it became a tricky thing where you had someone to man the phone, but then number of phone calls went down 95%. So you've got a person answering hardly any phone calls. So it's like this whole strange like chicken and egg thing. But we are interested in the AI phone idea and kind of how to incorporate that into more of a quick service, fast casual type concept.
Well, there coincidentally, there's a great company in Chapel Hill that's very well. Vernica, Virnika. Yeah. Um,
I'm gonna look it up when we get
check
off
them
here.
out. Yeah, we're from what I've seen. I mean, they're an impressive group. And we of the ones I've seen, I haven't. I mean, I haven't talked to all of them, but there were some that kind of overpromised,
Mhm.
underdelivered.
Yeah.
These guys they're hitting it with the
Yeah,
customers.
let's check it out. I mean,
Uh,
that's part and parcel of being AI today is overpromise, underdeliver. So,
yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah. All these early stage tech things end up like that. But yeah, I'll check it out.
Do you go on site like to most like before or help them pick in or do you like for openings or
Yeah, we do things a little different as a franchise. So we send an entire corporate training team on site pre and post opening for every location. So we have an ops team go down. They train the entire opening team for an entire week before soft opening. And then I go down for soft opening through grand opening to kind of help oversee operations and give advice and just watch and tell the owners and the GM what I'm seeing and where I see room for improvement. But I'm at every single open.
where
We're
is the
very, very hands on. Just nature of the category and you know none of my team has any franchising experience, and I did that purposefully to bring a kind of a fresh
hmm.
eye to franchising and a different vibe, so to speak. But we're much more hands on than a lot of other franchisors as a result.
When is the next or when and where is the next opening and how many are you opening this year projected?
I think we have 5 openings in the next 90 days. So the next open is either in Miami or Los Angeles, and we're not quite sure right now because each one is having these random um, issues that come up with every restaurant opening that are causing
Yeah.
some delays. So how it goes in restaurants. There's a dozen different government agencies that have to inspect before uh, before you can open. So
LA, man. Well, if you can make it work out there.
we
Uh,
have a location in Santa Monica. Been there for almost a year now. They're doing great. This is their second location over out east in Echo Park.
all right, good.
Mhm.
Good. How many do y'all think will open this year?
We are expecting around 20 openings this year.
Dude.
I mean, we're gonna have 6 open just in the first quarter, so we're well on our way.
You got a big year of travel and a lot of growth. Well,
I do.
Jay, thank you, man. I really
Thank you,
appreciate
Will.
the time. I've enjoyed the conversation thoroughly.
Likewise.
Started this thing in March of 2010, and the goal was to educate and inspire by giving
Awesome.
people that are doing great things a platform, and you've done both. So appreciate the time today. Appreciate y'all listening. Make sure to give Restaurant Owners Uncorked if you feel inclined to do this, a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. The more ratings we get, the more the algorithm puts this stuff out in front of people. So, Jay, you do the same. Tell your team.
Got it. All right,
Restaurant
Will.
Court, man.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very
Yep.
much. And I will follow up with you soon. Appreciate you.
All right, Will. Take care, man. Thanks.